Coming up on Big Ten basketball and beyond, Purdue wins in Madtown, taking solo possession of first in the process. Show you how it happened, what the result means for the Boilers and Badgers. Nebraska and Illinois work overtime in a Sunday night showdown worth the watch. Find out how the Illini found a way to win. Plus, the Ohio State women continue to make their case with yet another ranked dub, this one at the expense of top 10 Indiana. Those highlights on the way as we take you above and beyond. With that, welcome you inside this edition of Big Ten basketball and beyond. Rick Pizzo, thrilled to be joined, as always, by Rafael Davis, Mike DeCourcy, and John Beilein. The Big Ten's new tagline, we work overtime for you. 4 overtime games in the league alone since Wednesday night, including Nebraska, Illinois on Sunday. We'll get to that one in just a minute. That was an amazing finish in Champaign. But we start at the top where Purdue takes solo possession of first, and maybe the Boilers are thinking, now it's our time to never look back.
Yes, it is. You look at Purdue and you have to wonder how they make beating top 10 teams, especially on the road, look so easy. They got contributions from everybody, but I happen to love the play of Lance Jones in this game. He was outstanding.
You know, you look at the Purdue stats and you say, do they have a shooter that is capable of carrying them through March? And you look and Lance is only shooting 36% on the season. Here's the thing. When the play stepped up, he stepped up. Since January 1, 39.5% on threes, including a big day today.
It's amazing what Purdue gets done year after year with using a similar philosophy. If I had a son who was 7 feet and he wanted to play with me, I would say no. Don't go play for me. Go play for Matt Painter, because they throw the ball inside, the best of anybody in the country.
And, of course, you would send a little note to Coach Payne saying, I expect residuals over the course of the next 4 years.
Money out of that, yeah.
Purdue on the road to face Wisconsin in Madison on Sunday. Beautiful little matinee up in Madtown. First half, Braden Smith drives, hits the layup. I'll take all 3 of those, thank you very much. 11 of Smith's 19 coming in the first half. Purdue up by 6. Wisconsin right back. How about A.J. Storr? Just take it right at the big fella. That's athleticism. Badgers would trail by a deuce at the half. Second half, Tyler Wall having a terrific season, working down low, the up and under past the Canadian Condor. Wisconsin now within 2. Purdue comes right back, and here's that guy again, Lance Jones. And Rafael, how about that degree of difficulty?
Lance Jones hasn't seen the shot that he can't make all season. The big, strong body finishing through the contact. He was great.
Should have been worth 4. Purdue starting to pull away. It's Smith up ahead to Jones, who knocks down the triple. The lead is a half dozen. And then it's Fletcher Lawyer here and Zach Edey there. Coach Beilein told us that Purdue ran that play against him twice a year for 12 consecutive years, and he never figured it out. Edey had 18 and 13, Wisconsin fighting back. Its Storr, again, had 14 points, but took 15 shots to get there. Badgers down by 5. Wall getting the feed inside. He goes glass. Wisconsin within 3. Wall had 20, but Purdue continues to have the answer. 3-point game. Lance Jones, no balance, no problem. The lead is back to 6. Wisconsin still hanging around, and Tyler Wall was not going anywhere. Off the miss, the bad miss, and now it looks good because he gets his own and puts it back. Had 7 boards to go along with those 20 points, but Jones had 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and hit some of his biggest baskets at the most critical moments. That one puts the Boilers up by 4. 5-point game. Wall's offensive rebound knocked away by Braden Smith, out to Jones in transition. Purdue 75-69 as the Boilers improve to 10-2 in Big Ten play.
If you want to win the championship, you got to take care of business at home, but you got to be able to at least get half of them. You know, that was kind of the Coach Katie used to always talk about, win all your home games and, you know, split them on the road. That puts you at 15-5. It's always going to put you in position at that point. When you win games, you're still making mistakes. You know, when you lose games, you're still doing some good things. You got to keep things in perspective and try to learn from things and be better the next game.
I think we're really close. I mean, we played one of the best teams in the country today, and we had so many things that we pick up on and we can get so much better at. So we knock out 1, 2, 3 of those things, and I see no reason why we can't be one of the best teams in the country.
When you're playing at this level, you have to check every box. You can't check 3 of 5 or 5 of 7. you have to be elite in a lot of areas. And there's a difference between playing basketball and playing winning basketball. And we've got to continue to grow in those areas and help guys understand, like I said, there's a time and a place. But against the best of the best, you got to be disciplined in those areas. Winning at a high level is really hard, but the pain and regret is hard too. If you don't hold them accountable, if you don't keep pushing them out of their comfort zone, and sometimes losing or taking a bump gets you out of your comfort zone a little faster. You kind of cruise in it when you're winning, and maybe the lessons aren't as hard or aren't as direct. But if you, like I said, these guys want to be a great team, we see where we're a little short. When we gotta fill in those gaps and get better.
Really like that measured response from Greg Gard. You look at what Purdue has done. Most regular season wins by teams inside D1 basketball against top 10 foes in the last 15 seasons. Purdue has already posted 5 this year. That's the most over the last 15 seasons, tied with all those other teams. You get one more and you have a half dozen. Already the presumptive, I should say, number 1 overall seed in Mike DeCourcy's bracket. We'll probably get to that conversation a little bit later in the show. But first, the Lance Jones fan club president, Rafael Davis, who has been on this bandwagon all year long. And it really is amazing to see the difference that one guy can make in the perception of what a team is capable of doing, even a team as good as Purdue has been over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's Matt Painter's formula. You look at how Coach Painter has been able to win games. He has a quick, steady point guard that can get people in the offense. He always has a shooter. Think Dakota Mathias, Ryan Klein, a 4-man that can make plays inside out like a Robbie Hummel or Mason Gillis, and a big man from Jawan Johnson, A.J. Hammonds, Isaac Haas, Zach Edey. All he was missing was that 2-guard scorer. All he was missing was that Carson Edwards, that Etwan Moore. Doesn't have to be to that magnitude, but just somebody that can go get their own basket, play off the bounce, get to the rim, make an open three. But then defensively, he's been Coach Painter's best two-way player in a long, long time because he gets you 20 on offense, but he took A.J. Storr out of this game. A.J. Storr can score all over the floor. He got his 14 points, but he was 4 of 15 from the field. And as Coach would always say, you want good players, you want their shot attempts to match their point total.
Listen, Lance Jones has been phenomenal this year, but there are other teams in the country that have a player like Lance Jones. Yep. There's no other team in the country, John, that has a player like Zach Edey. And when you look at how Purdue utilizes Zach Edey, it stuck out to you in watching this game.
Well, it stuck out to me every time we ever played him. It's the same thing. It's the same formula. And you're saying all those names. I got a headache thinking about couldn't stop any of those guys. This formula works. It really works. But their ability to pass the ball into the post without turning it over is something that's – so here's some great high-low action. This is their favorite. They feed the ball to the big from the middle of the floor, right, so that they can't have help. They take the help away by staying in the middle of the floor. This is not necessarily that. They just want to give me that pain. That pain. What? So 12 years.
You said twice a year for 12 consecutive years.
So there's 24 points. There's 48 points.
Yep.
At least. And we knew it was coming. You couldn't do anything about it because if you fight over, you're trying to. If you let him go get it, then he's in a great screening position.
Yep.
If you don't, if you try and keep him to do it, it's one step up. Ray didn't get to throw that pass because Ray didn't throw passes. That's why he didn't get to throw that pass.
Coach
he just defended.
He just played defense, but Zach Edey can also play defense. And Mike, maybe one of the biggest plays of this entire game was a defensive play by Zach Edey.
I thought it was. He was matched against Tyler Wall for most of this game. By choice, by Matt Painter's choice, because Tyler Wall is not a great outside shooter, so they figured that he would be inside. But after a while, Wall started to get him unsettled a little bit inside. He was 6 of 9 from the field in the second half, and here it was a 7-point game, and there's still a chance, and he brings it down, and it's the slightest tip. You don't always have to throw the ball into the seats to get a blocked shot, and I don't think he got credit for one there, according to the play-by-play, but that was a huge play. That almost essentially ended Wisconsin's threat in this game, other than some mistakes that the Boilers made at the end. But that was a huge play, and he had 3 or 4 blocks on the day. He's a great defensive player in addition to being a tremendous offensive asset.
He deterred so many people from driving into the lane because he zoned up more off a wall. He just stayed in the lane. If you see that last play, he's playing 10 feet off a wall. He's daring him to shoot. I wish Wall could have just thrown in a couple shots because he can shoot that 15-footer. That might have brought him out and gave him a little bit more room. But he just attacked him.
And Steven Crowell as well. The big fella can shoot threes. Because of what Purdue did defensively, we didn't see a cross match. John, I love what we learned sitting in the green room with Coach Beilein. The cross match worked because Steven Crowell just wasn't very effective. And at the end of the day, Wisconsin has now lost twice this week. They lose in overtime after leading by 19 at Nebraska, and you lose to a really good Purdue team. You look at those standings that are up on the screen right now. Purdue has a 1-game lead over Wisconsin and Illinois in the loss column, but a 2-game lead in the win column. And it seems with 8 games left, Rafael, like this may be the point where Purdue says, we told you all along this was our league to lose.
Yeah, it's go time for them. You look back since that Nebraska game, all of their guys have been playing well. They took that loss on the road. They went into the locker room. They got better. Braden Smith has been outstanding sharing the basketball. You look at Lance Jones. He's averaged 18, 19 points since then. Zach Edey, the first 3 games after that loss, averaged 31 and 17. And then now you have Ethan more confident offensively. Trey Kaufman-Renn gave him minutes offensively in this game. This team is locked in. They know where their season took a dip last year. It was around this time where they started shooting the ball poorly. They stopped guarding the basketball. If they want to make a serious run, make a serious statement, it's go time now through the end of April.
This league has a way, though, of saying, you think you got us figured out? Wait till we see the next game. It is really a challenging league because it goes so deep. If you look at the standings, you see multiple wins all the way toward the bottom. I think that what we do know now is that with what happened this weekend, we are down to, for the championship, a 3-team race.
And this championship is just a little bit different in the Big Ten. Being in the Big East at West Virginia, it was all about going to New York, winning the tournament. The regular season didn't have that type of importance because the Big Ten was the last conference to put in a tournament. Matt Painter himself, when I was first meeting him in this league, he says the conference championships mean so much more, I know, to Providence. And I started teaching that same idea. Let's win this conference championship. And now there's 14 teams, right? And pretty soon there's going to be 20.
18.
18.
Let's not get
but winning this thing is the real test. And I don't think a lot of leagues look at it like that. But in the Big Ten Conference, it's important. And I think Purdue and Gene Cady always felt that way.
Yeah, the first 14 teams, 20 games. And it is a 20-game slog. Purdue with 10 wins already. Second consecutive year, they've been 10-2 in the Big 12, in the Big 10, I should say, through 12 games. That is a pretty amazing 2-year run for Matt Painter and the Boilers. Take a quick break here on Big Ten basketball and beyond. We promised highlights, reaction, and analysis from an overtime thriller between Nebraska and Illinois, and we delivered on that promise in mere moments. Plus, the Ohio State women, a little bit quiet, but one of the best in the country. We'll show you the latest victory for Cody McMahon and the Buckeyes.
Nebraska putting some pressure on number 6 Wisconsin. Wilcher for 3. 1-point game. Bass thought about the 3. Now he'll try the 3. And it's tied at 65. We've got a court storm warning issued in Lincoln. Oh, what a fight from Mass. Count it. And the foul. And the improbable upset in Lincoln.
Inconceivable. Nebraska came back from nearly 20 against Wisconsin. Next up for Fred Hoiberg and the Illini, a trip to Champaign, foreshadowing. No, I just ruined the surprise. You'd see overtime again. You'd also see Keisei Tominaga just fill it up. Had been struggling as of late, had 15 in the first half. Huskers up by 7. Coleman Hawkins, one of his best games of the season for the Illini. Drive, Illinois down by 2 at the break. In the second, this time it's Hawkins not scoring, but sharing. The beautiful wraparound to Ty Rodgers. Illinois up by 4. Moments later, same lead in transition. It's Terrence Shannon, loves to push. Hawkins 4 of 7 from 3, had 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists later in the second. It's Tominaga again. Hand in his face, doesn't matter. 5 of 7 from deep. Later in the second, the Illinois lead at 4. How about Dane Danger coming off the bench? 6 points in 9 minutes. Illinois up by 6. 4 minutes to go. The Illini have stretched the lead to 7. It's Terrence Shannon. Let's go double digits. Now note that score, 72-62, 3:19 to play. Nebraska makes it a 7-point game, and then it's Tominaga, not just a 3-point shooter. It's a 5-point game. Under 30 seconds left. Illinois up by 1 off the inbounds. Josiah Alec comes up with the steal. Husker ball. After the Nebraska timeout, clock winding down. Rink Mass goes glass. Huskers up by 1. Illinois comes back down the floor in the hands of Marcus Domask. He decides to drive. He gets fouled by C.J. Wilcher. 2 shots upcoming. Knocks down the first to tie it up. To take the lead at 74-73, no. Rebound, Huskers, desperation heave, no good, and we are going to overtime. Second game in a row, working extra minutes for Nebraska in the extra session. Illinois by 1. Quincy Guerrier, only triple of the game, I would say timely. Illinois by 4. Nebraska answers back with who else but Casey. Career high 31. Huskers trail by 1. Exchanging some free throws down the stretch. Under 20 seconds to play. Illinois by 1. Terrence Shannon can't handle the inbounds. That would be what you call a fortuitous bounce right into the hands of Justin Harmon. Illinois had some trouble getting the ball in late, but Lady Luck is on their side. Harmon goes to the line, knocks down a couple. Illinois lead at 3. Ensuing Nebraska possession, need a 3 for the tie. Tominaga to Rink Mass. Just a little hesitation allows Terrence Shannon to come up with a steal. Fouled on the other end. The Tominaga desperation heave at the buzzer after Shannon misses both free throws, would not go, and the Illini survive 87-84. Robbie Hummel begins the postgame from the State Farm Center.
Coach, it got a little bit dicey there in overtime, but you guys got it done. What'd you think about the way you guys played?
They're good. I mean, Rink gives you all kinds of problems. And the one thing we didn't want to have happen was Casey get going to start the game. He played horrible their last game. I knew he was going to come out. He's an elite hard shot maker. He made them. I thought Ty Rogers was huge. Had a 10-point lead. We executed a horrible side out. Didn't make free throws and still found a way to win. So, good night.
You mentioned the 10-point lead. What was your message to the guys to start overtime to kind of regroup?
It's what we do every day. We have a saying, one more. And it's one more sprint, it's one more shot, it's one more whatever. One more overtime, who cares? Let's go do it.
That last play, Rink Mass looks like he's got an open 3. Terrence Shannon shuts it down. What does he do defensively that makes him special?
He's elite. Terrence, one of the elite defenders in college basketball, and his speed, athleticism allowed that to happen.
I thought we just stayed connected. You know, they were hitting shots. Tominaga was hitting tough shots. But I felt like every time out, you know, we just kind of settled down, and we knew that if we stayed together, we would win this game.
Ty Rogers has been a man on the board. So what makes him special about getting to the glass?
He's just relentless. He doesn't accept blockouts. I mean, teams try to put 5 men, try to put guards on it. I mean, he's just going. It doesn't matter.
We've got a month in the season left. Still a lot of time, and a lot of things can happen in conference play. Where does this team still need to make a stride if they're going to make a run at the Big Ten?
I think our defense has got to pick up. You know, early in the year we were really solid in that end, but it's kind of fell off a little bit. So we've been getting after in practice, and that's something that we're really focused on.
I'm really proud of the guys for the resolve that they showed tonight. As I told them in the locker room, now we know we can do it. And you're playing one of the top teams in the country on their home floor in an unbelievable environment, and you have a chance to win. You have a lead with under 5 seconds to go in regulation, even though we got out-rebounded by 17. I thought our guys played extremely hard, and when you're down 10 on the road with under 4 to go, it's tough to come back. But we scored 11 in a row. I think 11-1. Unfortunately, the one was the one that sent it to overtime. But, you know, again, we showed we can do it.
Rick Pizzo back with Rafael Davis, Mike DeCourcy, Coach John Beilein. There was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly for Illinois. Brad Underwood actually described himself that way in the post-game press conference. I'm certainly not saying that. I do agree with the description of some of Illinois play late in the game. But listen, we've all said it all year long. an ugly win is a whole lot more fun than a pretty loss.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll probably get a lot of the Illinois fans.
There you go.
Yeah, because I've been saying the S, I guess, but I'm learning. I'm going to learn. No, if Damas gets fouled with 3 seconds to go, and he puts the game into overtime, could have won it. This whole conversation is completely different. If he throws up a shot, they get the rebound. There's some things happening that I just sense this, and I could be all wrong, that Illinois players, or there's just times that they get a little bit into their own game and not into a team game. And it's at this level of play, it can't be happening when you get into February and March. You're not going to win games against. They got 17 offensive rebounds, right, and got bailed out on a couple of other plays. They're not going to get 17 offensive rebounds as they play other teams. So yeah, I just think there's some flags there for Illinois that I think they should pay attention to. I know Brad knows it. He mentioned it right there. But it's a great win for them, only if they get better through these mistakes.
They have the absence of that prototypical point guard that we've talked about with some other teams in this league, including the one they played against today. But sometimes because you don't have that player, maybe there's not a natural leader in that circumstance. Yeah. Because usually you're looking to that player, the point guard, to be the quarterback, as we always say, using that comparison to football. And they don't really have that guy, so you need somebody like Coleman Hawkins, who's played so much basketball for Illinois, to step forward and say, okay, guys, we got to get this done the right way now. And I think today was a big step for him in that direction. I thought he played a really sound game, both ends of the floor. He is capable of doing just about everything you want a player to do. So when he plays like this, they are really difficult to play against. But in those last 2 minutes, when you're trying to protect that 10-point lead, you used to do, you get everybody together and say, okay, this stops now. It was cool that they did that, but this possession, it can't happen.
Yeah, no, and I go back to that. You think about me, I wasn't our point guard. John Noctis wasn't your traditional point guard. So I kind of disagree with you when I think about Ty Rodgers being the best point guard for this group. You go back to Purdue and Nojo Eastern, I think they're very similar. I think Ty Rodgers, he can defend a point guard, he can guard 1 through 4. Offensively, he can bring it up, initiate the offense. But if you get a Coleman Hawkins like you did today and a Marcus Domask like you did today, those are your playmakers in the half court. Marcus Domask has got to be their point guard in the half court. He's a guy with the ball skills, with the headiness, with the patience to come off of ball screens, make plays for others, make plays for himself. He had 19 points in this game, 5 assists. And when it got sticky, when guys don't move, he's the guy that can get them moving. He's the guy that can make plays.
I don't think you're disagreeing with me.
No, I'm disagreeing with you in the sense of they don't need a point guard in those moments. They don't need a guy that can bring them together because you have Ty Rodgers to bring them together. You have Marcus Domask.
But that did not happen today. You need somebody to take command. That 10-point run, no one said it stops now. No one got them together. You often talk about that.
Right. No, the leadership aspect.
Yes,
yeah, the leadership aspect. Yeah, they need a bona fide leader in their group. That's got to be guys. And like Coach says, when guys start to miss shots, they don't want to be that guy. But I think when it comes down to crunch time, not just being the leader, but you need a guy that can go make a play. You look at Marcus Domask, that last play, getting fouled, getting himself to the free throw line was big. But I agree with that.
But they all can't be the guy that's wanting to make the play.
Exactly. It's not equal opportunity. Yeah.
They got to. We used to say, know who the good guys are.
Exactly.
Right. They got to know who needs the ball at certain times, especially crunch time.
Yeah, it's going to be either Domask or Shannon, but perhaps that's part of the issue right now. Who is the true leader, the true alpha dog on that team? And John, to your point, probably something you got to figure out before you get into tournament time, when if you don't figure it out in one game, your season can come to an end.
There's problems with having a lot of talent. There's
Illinois 87-84 as the Illini improve to 8-3 in the Big Ten this season. All right, time for us to look at some women's buckets and a good one. Top 10 matchup in Columbus. Number 8, Ohio State. Number 10, Indiana. Sarah Scalia. First time the shot is blocked, gets her own board and bucket. Indiana up by 5 at the break. Start of the third quarter, J.C. Sheldon knocks down the triple. Tie game at 37. 7 minutes to play in the third quarter. IU up by 1. It's Scalia again. Had a team high 25 as the Hoosiers lead it by 3. Cody McMahon plays as hard as anybody on the planet. Man, woman, extraterrestrial. I guess that wouldn't be on the planet. 20-7. Ohio State up by 4. And then McMahon finding J.C. Sheldon again. Ohio State up by 10. Next possession for the Buckeyes. It's Sheldon, had 25. This triple puts OSU up by a baker's dozen. and they would not look back. Cody McMahon working in the paint. How about Ohio State? 74-69. Remember, they're tied with Iowa at 10-1 atop the Big Ten. And who is that one Iowa lost to this year? That's right, Cody McMahon and those Ohio State Buckeyes. Christy Winters-Scott has all the post-game reaction.
Cody, what a tremendous win. A top 10 win for your team, 9th in a row. Defensively, what was the disruption that you caused to force 23 turnovers today?
Yeah, I mean, our press, we're always going to do it. But sometimes, it's just about whether we're like in it, locked in our mentality. So today it was just going out there, making sure that we are all mentally focused and just going out there and doing what we do.
What has been the difference for you coming into this game? 4 consecutive double-doubles, nearly that again tonight. What was it about your play that you thought impacted the team in a positive way?
Yeah, I mean, I just felt like something needed to change. I needed to do something else than just scoring around the basket. And I felt like for my teammates, I had to get in there and rebound and just be aggressive on both ends. And I felt like that I really did that well tonight.
One other women's game on the Sunday schedule, Wisconsin-Northwestern. First quarter, Badgers down by 5. Sarah Williams gets the block on one end, and then when you play defense and you run the floor, your teammates got to find you. They do. Williams had 11 and 11, 8th straight double-double, but not nearly enough. Caroline Lau had a career-high 24, 9 of 9 from the field, 4 of 4 from three-point range. Cats go on to win this one, 69-43. So here are the up-to-the-minute women's basketball standings. I told you about Ohio State and Iowa tied at 10-1 atop the league. Right now, the Buckeyes have the tiebreaker because of that head-to-head. Indiana 1 game behind both those teams, but the Hoosiers' 2 losses have come to the Buckeyes and the Hawkeyes. So in actuality, they trail those 2 squads by a pair of games. Coming up on Monday, it's a women's hoops doubleheader, tipping off with the Gophers and Spartans. Then the Fighting Illini take on the Boilermakers. Our coverage begins at 6 Eastern. You can see it only on the Big Ten Network in the Fox Sports app. Milestone moments taking center stage when Beyond returns as Caitlin Clark inches closer to the all-time scoring mark, while Tom Izzo joins the illustrious 700 Club. We'll try to put it all in perspective next. Back on Beyond as Caitlin Clark nears the all-time scoring record. Never a bad time to look back on some of those moments, and there were a lot where she made us say, "Are you kidding me?"
Trying to find that shot.
I think everyone in America knows who it's going to. Time winding down. Clark for the win.
Two to shoot for Clark. She'll need the heroics here. And does it? Is anyone surprised?
The heroics, the history.
It has been an absolute pleasure to watch and cover Caitlin Clark, who recently passed Kelsey Mitchell to become the Big Ten's all-time leading scorer. Second, just about to pass Kelsey Plum, on pace to do it in just a couple of games. And that record of Pistol Pete, it's out there. You play long enough into April, the pace that she's at, it is something that is certainly worth a thought. Now take a close look at Caitlin Clark's career shot chart. Anything that's blue, she's chilly. You won't see that anywhere. Anything that's red and it gets awfully warm, yeah, that's in Clark's wheelhouse. Look at some of the ridiculous numbers from that left corner. She is 57% from 3. She's 50% from about 15 to 18 feet on the right-hand side. Basically, what I'm saying is there is no spot on the court where Caitlin Clark is not the best in the country. And coming up on Thursday, Clark continues her quest for that scoring title when she leads the Hawkeyes against McKenna Marisa and the Lady Lions. Coverage begins at 9 Eastern only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Also a milestone week for that man, Tom Izzo, reaching career win number 700 on Tuesday. And how fitting was this? Doing it against an in-state rival and on his 69th birthday. It all led to some serious emotions post-game from the longtime head Spartan.
I look back on my career, Jack, you and I used to talk about this, a lot of midnights 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and, what I was going to do in my career, when I was going to quit, if I was going to go to the NBA, if I do, and so many coaches have changed, and I've just kind of hung in there, and that's what happens when you hang in there. I mean, 700 wins is pretty impressive even to me, but 700 wins at the same school, that means a lot to me. That's probably what means the most to me. I mean, if you want a few here and a few there and a few here and a few there, and then a lot at one place, but we, the players, the assistant coaches I've had, we've won all of ours right here at Michigan State, and I am really, really honored, proud, and feel good. And like I said, we're not dead yet. We got some more wins. Just going to keep fighting the fight.
Just a handful of coaches to reach 700 and still be coaching. Less than 40 have done it at the Division I level, less than 10 at one school, and Tom Izzo is the only Big Ten coach to ever reach 700 wins by collecting all 700 victories at a single Big Ten institution. Pretty unbelievable stuff from a guy who we all know fairly well, and as good as he is as a coach, he's just as enjoyable to hang out with, share a meal with, share some thoughts with. John, I know you shared some great matchups against Tom Izzo. What are your thoughts as he gets to career win number 700?
I don't know the exact number. He'd only have 690 if it weren't for me. I don't know the exact number where it is, but it's just an amazing coach. So hard to prepare for his teams. And just when you think you figured something out, he's got a counter for it. His team's always so good defensively. Just an amazing, just to stay, when you're at the same school over and over, I mean, people get sick of you. I mean, you got to win a national, once you win a national championship like he did, you got to win it every 5 years or they get mad at you, So he has sustained all that. He's gone through all the change in basketball. Amazing man, amazing coach. Really happy for him to get the 700th win.
I think back to when I first met Tom. It was in March 1997, and I was covering Cincinnati, and they were in the Detroit region. And so I drove over for a NIT game, his first postseason game that they beat George Washington. And I went out after the game with him and Tom Crean and really got to know him. And he has not really, he's richer and he's more successful, but he really has not changed in the 27 years since. He's basically the same person. There's a little half empty to him. He has 700 wins. He knows how many losses there are. Yeah. But he's a beautiful person, and I'm proud to be able to call him a friend.
He just is who he is. You look at Coach Izzo, he just does it his way. He goes about it with toughness, with pride. I love the way his former players treat him. You go back to Mateen Cleaves, you think of Draymond Green and the former players that come back, shower him with love. I knew it was serious when they would call the current players. When I heard Draymond Green calling A.J. Hogarth to get this stuff fixed, that showed me how much these guys care about their coach and his program. And being a guy that played in this league, talked to Coach Izzo a little bit before going to Purdue, you never understood the magnitude of the human being he was. I went to spend time with him, calling one of their exhibition games. He treated me like I played for him. He treated me with the utmost respect, told me if I ever needed anything, I could reach out to him. And you just love guys that care about their players, not just when they're on the floor making buckets, going to Final Fours, but when they're 30, 35 years old, he's still helping them and their families.
And he cares about his counterparts just as well. If you ever see a coach in the Big Ten get let go, the first guy to come to his defense is Tom Izzo. I remember at the Big Ten tournament one year when Bruce Weber was let go from Illinois, Tom and Michigan State picked up a big win. Tom didn't want to talk about the win. He wanted to talk about the fact that Bruce was a phenomenal coach, that he was going to be a great hire for the next institution. That's the kind of guy that Tom Izzo is. Just also happens that he's one of the best basketball coaches in history. And our congrats to Coach Izzo on that 700th win. And many more to come, because I don't think he's anywhere close to that R-word, retirement. Not yet. Now, the Spartans are a bit of a work in progress this year because they're playing much differently than they have in the past. Look at those offensive and defensive rebounding numbers. We've heard Tom talk this year about getting the shoulder pads back out, and that's why. Now, on the flip side, they're much better at turning the ball over, or I should say not turning the ball over, which had been a major issue for them in recent years, and they are turning the opposition over, so that's why they are still a team that is solidly inside Mike DeCourcy's bracket. from brackets to standings, we showed you these earlier. Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois, perhaps at this point, Mike, making this really a 3-team race to get to the championship, be the 1 seed. But those 2 other races are really important. The race to be the 4 seed and get that double bye. You see Northwestern and Michigan State are both at 6 and 5. But look at the logjam below that, because those are all the teams right now that are above 500 in the league. Everybody else is chasing that single bye, if not the double.
Yeah, I mean, you go from Northwestern all the way down to near the bottom of the standings. It's completely wide open. I mean, Minnesota staking their claim to being in that race. But I look at the top, and I look at Purdue at this point with 8 games remaining in this league. They are not going 5-3. That is not going to happen. So there are 3 teams to me left in this race, but they each have a shot at Purdue before the end of the season. So I think in terms of those 3 teams, it's very wide open, even though Purdue continues to play fantastic basketball.
Yeah, Mike, you said it. There's 8 games left. There are 9 for some people. There's still a lot of basketball to be played. We see people starting to separate themselves. I think it'll separate now. Northwestern's had a tough schedule. They're right there, but they've proved they're as good as those first 3 teams. They've just lost overtime games. So they could separate a little bit more and get in that 4th position. And that people care about that a little bit. I don't care. I don't think people care whether they want to win the conference or make the NCAA tournament. They don't care whether they're 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th. I mean,
just for the bye and that extra day of rest never hurts.
Never hurts. But we did a couple 4-game ones.
Oh, I remember. I remember. We're in practice. We're in practice uniforms in the first round, if I recall.
It's okay. Guys get to play, right?
Yeah. One thing I love about the Big Ten as a conference in general is that it still matters to win the Big Ten. Yeah. The first day of workouts, the first day of practice, Coach Painter writes the goals on the board, and the first goal is always win the conference. Yes. That never gets old at Purdue, and I know it's not going to get old at Illinois. That still matters. Being a leader in Big Ten championships is what Purdue players take pride in. And those other teams, Wisconsin, you think of Tyler Wall. He could be the first Wisconsin men's basketball player ever to win 3 Big Ten championships. That means something to these guys, not just now, but even 20 years from now.
Well, they've had some pretty good players in Wisconsin in recent years. Frank Tominski, Sam Decker, those guys weren't too shabby. Wisconsin has 2 games left against ranked opponents, Illinois and Purdue. Those 2 matchups should be awfully good in the final month of the regular season. Maryland is a team that could perhaps make a run, especially if Jameer Young plays to his ability. Young and the Terps is hosting Cliff Amori and the Scarlet Knights on Tuesday. It's Big Ten Hoops presented by Blue Diamond Almonds, 6:30 Eastern, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Our coverage begins 30 minutes beforehand with the tip-off show. If you've been thinking the men's game seems smoother, faster, maybe a bit more explosive this year, you're right. We have the numbers to prove it with a dive into deep digits when Beyond returns right after this. We are back on Beyond with a look at deep digits. The game is faster, the game is smoother, the game is more offensive because we're seeing more possessions. We're seeing the highest points per 100 possession rate in more than 2 decades. Shooting 50% from the field from 2-point range. That's also the highest this century. And the turnover rate, teams forcing others to turn the ball over, that's at 17.5%. That's the lowest it's been since the turn of the century. So, Mike, I guess the question now is why are we seeing all these changes in college basketball?
It all starts with the decision last spring by the Rules Committee and Officials Coordinator Chris Rastatter to change the charge definition to you have to be legal before the player basically plants to go in the air. Think about it. When you jump, you're not Superman. None of us is Superman, even Rayfeld, not Superman. You have to use your legs, your hips, your knees. You don't just take off. And that's the way they had been defining the charge. You had to be in, you didn't have to be in position until they were taking off. And so now you see that player there, Tyler Wall, he walls up. He makes sure that he just walls up and tries to make it difficult to defend. That is real defense. Just standing in front of C.J. Wilcher there and just taking the hit, that is not really defense. That is just getting in the way and taking up space. So because of that, we have 53 teams, averaging 80 points a game. Last year, a month later, we finished with 18. That's the difference in how the game is being played, how much faster it is. You're seeing slam dunks. I saw a player from Mississippi State go coast to coast and throw it down. There would have been 3 guys in his way a year ago.
And it's not just about points and pace. You talked about the rule changes and the block charge. That's an obvious one. That's one that we can see. One that maybe only coaches see or someone who's actually looking for it, John, is a simple travel call, but you think it makes a huge effect on the game.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. If you ever saw me get a technical, usually it was because of a bad travel call. That sometimes officials will see funny movement of the feet in their travel, and nobody ever. I used to break it down, and if you have to go on a computer and go key by key to see it's the travel, it should not be called. Right now, it is not being called. I think it's great. You know, there's the obvious travel should be called. Let's all say that. But it doesn't necessarily just any movement of the feet. So more possessions. Other thing that's happening is the wall up we just saw. Coaches are teaching how to score against it now. Yep. So that is much better. But the other one is the pace of play that is improving. If you look at this video right now that we had, now this is after rebounds, but I want you to show people are doing this even afterwards. By half court, 28 seconds on the shot clock. Even after a score, I would want my guys to have it over at 25. But it leads to quick offense. Look at the shot clock. There's 20 on the clock. They've passed it 3 times. It gives them more time. Here's another one. Going out, and Elijah Hawkins is elite at this. But here we go again. After a rebound, look at that. Bang. 26 seconds over. Now you got a whole lot of shot clock time. But the defense is still regrouping because there was pressure on the rim. Now out comes a ball screen again. Not a great job by Boo Buie here in the gap, but they just go right by and score. So that pace right there is how people are playing. More better pace, more possessions.
The first thing I saw in that video, Coach, was who got that rebound on that first possession. Cam Christie, 6'7" wing, can handle the basketball. I think that's one of the reasons the game is changing a little bit. The wing play has gotten better. Guys can handle the basketball. They can make plays in the open court. A wingman, a forward can get a rebound. Think Mason Gillis and bring the ball up the court, initiate offense. But then the point guard play is better in the Big Ten this year. You talk about pace. You can't go fast if you don't have good guards. Yeah. I think this year in the Big Ten, when it comes to guard play, from Braden Smith and Boo Buie and Jameer Young, even to Kanye Clary and Ace Baldwin and those guys at the bottom of the league, this is some of the best guard play.
Don't forget Elijah.
Some of the best guard play since we've seen who? Evan Turner, Kalen Lucas and those guys in 2010. This guard play in this league is special, including that wing play.
See, he's asking you not to forget Elijah Hawkins because what the folks couldn't see is when the video was rolling, Coach Beilein was all the way up here trying to make sure he got the best look.
You're
3-second violation on Coach Beilein. That rule change is never going to be different.
I love teaching the game.
All right, well, don't worry because there's more Elijah Hawkins coming up next. Advanced Scout is on the menu. Coach explains why a first-half play by the Gophers in their most recent win was the difference even in a game that went all the way to overtime. We're back with this week's edition of Advanced Scout as Coach Beilein explains why winning time doesn't necessarily always have to be the last couple of minutes of a game.
Yeah, I've never seen this before where 10 seconds with 2 minutes to go in the first half, down 10, Elijah Hawkins was responsible for every score on a 10-0 run that put them back to tied at half, and then it went into overtime. Watch this sequence. He runs, and he ends up hitting Garcia on the run, right? Because Garcia was running the floor. Now they come in and get the steal. They get in his hands again. Look at Garcia run, but this time he ran. It clears out of the way for Christie. Following time, still need a point. Get the ball along the baseline, attacks the big, gets fouled. There's 2 more points. So we're up to 7 right now. Now, they're rolling. He could make a different choice now. So he's going. It's a fast break situation. Put on the brakes. I'm in charge. I'm the point guard. We're running this thing down to get the last shot of the half. Bingo. There you go. Tied. 27-27, right? They win it.
Yeah, that's a bad shot unless you make it. And it helps when you have a guy that you can feed like Dawson Garcia.
When Dawson Garcia decides to play inside out instead of outside in, it takes Minnesota to the next level on both ends of the floor. You've seen him sprinting in that tape Coach just played for you, but there is no four-man in the Big Ten that can stay in front of Dawson Garcia or that can guard him down low when he decides to put his nose on the basket. He's big at 6'11", 250 pounds. He's got to start his game inside. You go to that Northwestern game, he went on an 8-0 run by himself in overtime.
After that big victory against Northwestern, they are now 90th in the net, and they have 0 quad 1 wins. But Coach Ben Johnson wants them to think that they can make the NCAA tournament. So, okay, no quad 1 wins, but 6 quad 1 opportunities between now and the end of the regular season. Win half of them and you're in the picture. Win 4 of them, maybe you're in the show. Make a run at home, basically, in the Twin Cities in the Big Ten tournament, and you never know what happens. Back-to-back wins now for the Gophers after what had been a 4-game losing streak. Time for one final break, and then time for us to hit the road ahead as we look at upcoming 7-day stretches for the likes of Northwestern, Michigan State, and the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Kisha Simpson helps lay the foundation for Michigan State's women's basketball success. She was the first Spartan to receive first-team All-Big Ten accolades and was the program's first All-American. Simpson was a 3-time All-Conference selection, and her 1,668 career points were a school record when she graduated in 1995. She was inducted into the MSU Athletics Hall of Fame in 2011 and became a social worker, holding a position at the Detroit Medical Center for the last 7 years. Kisha Simpson, a big impact pioneer, class of 2024.
All right, just enough time left on the show for us to travel the road ahead, and John is focused on the Iowa Hawkeyes. John, a road game against Penn State, a home game against Minnesota, 2 very winnable games, but in Iowa's situation, everything at this point has to be considered winnable.
The teams in the middle of the pack, they have to win, hold their own, but what's most important, they have 3 ranked teams coming up in the end of their schedule. They have a chance. They got to win a lot of games. They can do it.
Penn State has shown it is not easy to win in-state college, especially when those guards get going. Mike, you're focused on Michigan State for the Spartans this week. They are at Minnesota and then home against the team that we saw on Sunday night on the network, Illinois.
A suddenly very interesting game against Minnesota, given what they did with Northwestern. And then, of course, we know how good Illinois is. Michigan State only has 2 quad 1 games down the stretch, so through the most of the prestige on their schedule. But they have 3 of their next 4 on the road, and it's never easy on the Big Ten road.
No, but they are solidly inside your bracket, and a team that the net, a very important metric in that committee room, the net loves Tom Izzo and Michigan State. And finally, Rafael, your road ahead looks at Northwestern, a team that has the rarest of weeks, back-to-back home games, Nebraska and then Penn State at Welsh Ryan.
Yeah, the game against Nebraska could be the game of the week. It means a lot to both teams. Nebraska needs a road win. Northwestern needs to get themselves a win. But if I'm Northwestern, I'm looking at Boo Buie, and I know everybody in the country has been telling him he's playing the game the right way. He's morphed into this great point guard. He's got to go back to the old Boo Buie at times in the game. When Northwestern's not scoring the ball, Boo got to take control, take a couple bad ones, but he's got to score the ball.
Raphael's getting nervous. The funding is starting to get short for this Boo Buie statue outside of Welsh Ryan. For John, Mike, and Raphael, I'm Rick. Thanks for hanging with us here on Beyond.